Oh yeah, you're good on. You're good on everything. Yeah, you're good.
All right.
It's always the biggest gamble of the week is whether Instagram is going to work or not.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's integration. Weird.
All right. Yeah. No. Um, One of those days where you're just working all day and you're not getting anything done. You know.
I have those a lot.
You know, you're losing it now. Stay with me. Usually
I
I'm the
have.
one losing it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying.
I was dying this morning. Oh my God. That thing you said to me, it was like we were working for 4 hours and it was like, you feel like, that's the thing. It's like we are in the process of systemizing the Amazon business to where it's
Yeah.
like, just trying to delegate, automate, systemize, but you can't optimize until you systemize. So it's like, um, yeah, just
I mean, and the hardest thing too is like you talk about like working in the business versus working on the business, and it's like everyone knows that they should work on the business, but then it's like you just you want to like work in the business so bad, and when you when you do, you have to like take a step back from it, and it just it's like I don't know. I feel like I'm just like constant. It's like constantly treading water. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah,
no.
I got the giggles tonight. I can't stop.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when I work 12, 15 hours, it's like I have a line. I know you do too. It's like there's a line where it's like, all right, time to stop working, where you just kind of go, it's like, whoo. Um, but
Whereas I feel like your line is like I feel like I never know your line. I feel like my line. I'm always dramatic about it when I hit my line. That's why
yeah,
I'm like I gotta It depends
yeah,
what it is. Like I literally I went and I like literally right before this I was just working all day and I went and I took a walk for like 10 minutes and that helps. But you
yeah.
you have to do something though. You have to do something that like
Oh, yeah.
breaks it up. It's just the
I
monotony of
mean, you need to do some sort of physical exercise like
yeah.
daily, even if it's to just get out there for a walk or like, I'm so much better mentally when I'm doing something physically consistently, you know.
Hmm.
I know you're the same way. It's like
Yeah.
you have to exert the body to reset the mind.
Yeah. I mean, I always grew up doing like, I mean, athletics of some sort. You know what I mean? So it's like that was more normalized. But then I never, like when you were younger, I mean, did you ever think like, like you didn't relate any sort of physical activity to like mentally feeling better? I know I didn't.
Yeah,
It was only
no.
once I started working.
Yeah, no, I same here. Like it was always about like, the physical aspect of it. It's like, all right, I'm trying to get stronger and, build muscle or, have better performance. But it's like nowadays I'm like, fuck man, I'm working out literally for 75% of it for just the mental reset that it gives me. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, 50% of it at least for me is mental. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's a thing like, I mean, you talk about runner's high and stuff like that. It's like you get those endorphins from that. So it's just a good release. But we actually, we were just talking about it before the the call. I mean, or before the live, anyone that's in the, I guess, in the area or just maybe not in the area in the country and wanting to go, Miami Seller Conference was it 2 weeks? 2 weeks from now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thir- uh, 1st of May.
Yeah, a
Or is
couple
it
of
the
weeks.
30th?
It's the first.
Yeah, it's the first. Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, because we're flying the 30th, right? Um, yeah. I mean, if you haven't been there or you don't know what it is and you're listening, it's one of the best, if not the best, networking events that we've been to for Amazon. You're just surrounded with a group of people, like-minded people, selling all different business models, wholesale, arbitrage, private label, all that stuff. Tons of speakers, events. There's a yacht, which is cool. Fun experience.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool if you guys are going out there. Connect with us. Love to meet you. Um, what's
Yeah.
going on, Tim? How you doing, man? Nice to have you back here in the live. Yeah, we'll dive into a little bit of sourcing. We do it every time, and it just never ceases to amaze me in the brands that we find. Like last week, what was it? Like this automotive brand, right? It was something with, was it fuel or something? It was like a filter. It was like a filter of some kind.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh,
And
was it oil filter?
yeah,
Oil filter. Yeah,
yeah. And like we were just focusing on the fact that like, the product was moving, thousands of units a month at like a 40 or $50 sell price. And it's like, that's really good profit and opportunity. Um, but man, I like the riches are in the niches, and it's like in the things that people aren't looking at. So a lot of people are looking at like the sexy, glamorous products, but it's like filter, filters for automotive. Like who's looking at that stuff?
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's kind of like that in no matter what the business model, no matter what the industry too. Because I remember back like doing resale arbitrage, and I was going crazy on shoes. Like it was not. Um, Actually, I had someone literally ask me the other day that they were like, what is, you're flipping like the Jordans and this and that, and like I was like, no, like I was flipping the shoes that everybody wears and stuff because there's more people there's a bigger market, and like that's the thing with wholesale. There's a
Yeah, well,
huge
I feel
market
like
for stuff like that.
you were really involved in the shoe industry early on,
Yeah,
doing all kinds of stuff with shoes. You know, before we linked up, and it was like I know people were like going crazy with the hype on the shoes and everything and the Yeezys, and like I never really got into that. You didn't get into that too much, did you?
there was more money in the less hype stuff.
Yeah.
There still is because it's like I don't care how much something goes for. You can mark it up, for $400. You bought it for 100, right? But like when you can get consistent supply of that over and over and over again, unless you're one of these guys that has like a backdoor connection that's getting like a ton of stuff. But unless you're getting backdoored stuff, there's no way that anything is going to beat the market of what everyone wears every day. It's just like wholesale though. It's like that everyday products, the consumables. We talk about consumables all the time, like huge. I mean, you run out of something and then have to replenish it. Like that's a great market to be in, which those oil filters are.
Yeah, it draws a good comparison with wholesale. Like, wholesale is not really a sexy business model because it's just literally everyday replenishable products. It's, the riches are in the niches kind of thing. And it's not like that's the thing with those hype products. It's like, you're trying to capitalize on a window of demand, and it's created around this hype. Whereas like wholesale has and always will exist, right? Like it's just simply, buy in bulk, sell. A very, very simple, right? It's a model that has existed for thousands of years. Um, and Amazon wholesale, it's just really an iteration of the simplest thing, which is just buy and sell. Obviously though, you can't just buy the products because a lot of these brands are not working with Amazon sellers. So that kind of segues into our sourcing here. So why don't we jump into that? Um,
Yeah, I kind of miss it sometimes. Arbitrage. Like I don't miss the business model like on the basis of wholesale's just been so much more effective, but like it's fun. Like it's a lot of fun, you know.
Yep. Just 1 second here. I'm gonna share my screen.
Yeah, while you're doing that, just gonna answer a question. It says, how do you follow up when you leave information with the customer service, but the sales rep never reaches back? Yeah, that's funny. I mean, we actually were having this conversation earlier today. Is you just continue to follow up. Like, I know that's maybe not be the most direct answer, but like, if you can follow up with value, it's only important to do that when you're talking to a decision maker. So, like, if it's just a customer service rep, just trying to get your foot in the door any way you can and talk to someone who is a decision maker. But if it's just like a low level customer service rep, it's almost like just belligerently following up until you can get somebody on the phone. You know, if they have no power, no decision making, maybe try to get to somebody else. Um, Different means of communication. It's probably what I would do. If you guys have any other questions, like, you know, just drop them in as well while we're doing this.
Yep. Exactly. All right. Jump into this.
Jacob says, kind of sounds familiar. Yeah. I was talking to this guy about it earlier.
Okay. So inside of SmartScout, we're just going to set our monthly revenue parameter. And if you guys have been joining us in the past, like this is old news to you, but this is where the process all starts. So we want to set at least 2 sellers here on SmartScout so that we can filter out those private label products and keep it within the United States. That way we get rid of the China sellers. Speaking of which, I've had several conversations this week and starting to feel the price increases a little bit. A couple brands have increased pricing
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of just got things on hold right now.
Yeah, it's kind of a holding pattern, tariffs and stuff.
Yeah.
Just like anything else, though, it's like just adapt, you know?
Yeah. Macro trends that we can't control. So Amazon in stock rate, we put a max at 15%. Am I missing anything here?
No, I think you're good. We're looking at that too. Said some brand is deleting their listing to make new ones to not allow random sellers to hop on. Are they cooked? Yeah, yeah, they are. If that's their logic, that has absolutely no impact on like the sellers are just going to hop on the new listing. I
Hop
don't
on
even
the new
understand what
listing.
the point. Not
Sounds
they're
like a
going to hop on
brand
the
that
new
doesn't know
listing.
what
No,
they're doing.
yeah, it sounds like, well, apparently they're working with a company as well. So but again, that's like a pitch of like, you know, value add where it's like, you look at that and you're like, this is completely wrong. And you just got to talk with such conviction on a subject like that. Cause it like, yeah, it just that doesn't make sense. Like that is a complete misunderstanding of how Amazon works on the back end because not only are they going to have them hop onto the new listing, but they are going to lose their sales traction.
Yeah.
So, John here saying, you think there'll be a shortage of inventory because of tariff? I think it's really case by case. No, kind of depends on who you're working with.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just scrolling through here and kind of what's going through my head is all right, I'm looking for, we've already recognized that like we're working in a like the high end of monthly revenue here. So I'm not so much worried about that. I'm kind of just more zoning in on the brand score, looking for a lower brand score to see if, there's underrepresentation on Amazon. In combination with the sell price, Just kind of looking at what that sell price is with respect to the demand.
Yeah, I like the $40 sell price, like around there, on the basis of it's usually not crazy for a newer seller. Like if there's a really high 100, 200, $300 price product,
Like something like
you
this
know, it,
or this.
it could be harder for maybe a newer seller to make those purchases in the demand, because that's a very real thing. Like you might close an account that you have the skill to close and then not be able to afford it.
Yeah. Generally the skill set and the capital kind of goes hand in hand, especially when you grow
Mm-hmm.
organically and you don't have the capital in the beginning.
Yeah.
If you go into this model with a skill set and capital, like with a sales skill set, let's say, I almost feel like you have to be a little bit more cautious because you don't have the Amazon knowledge yet, but you have like this, you have the ability to close the accounts and you have the capital to invest in the product. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's very easy to, invest a lot of money and maybe make the wrong decision.
I saw flex tape on there.
What's
I
that?
thought that's no, it was up further, but flex tape, that the one where the guy like saws the boat in half in the commercial.
Oh yeah.
You seen that?
Yeah, I think I have seen that. Yeah, I'm always going to avoid like clothing, like and
Yeah.
perfumes. Like we always stay far and clear from that type of stuff.
Yep.
Electronics, I don't like either. Pets, we found is very, very exclusive to that industry. So pets will like, they want like veterinary license and things like that. Not saying you can't close pet accounts. It's just a little bit of a higher barrier to entry there.
Sure. Tim in here saying, I'm looking to start transitioning from RA to OA into wholesale, but I don't have much capital to make the transition or diversify the risk. After testing a product, would you take the leap? I'm going to kind of like break that down into parts. So transitioning from RA to OA, or transitioning out of RA and OA into wholesale, is tough. It's not tough on the basis of like doing it. It's tough on the basis of like being okay with the decision, if that makes sense, right? So, you know, when we made that jump, it's not easy to stop sourcing, because then you're like, well, if I stop sourcing, all of my income is going to go away, type of deal. But and especially with wholesale, like it's more delayed gratification, stuff like that. So making the transition, I think, is, you just got to take the leap, period. Personally, like that's what I would recommend. I think that after testing a product means nothing, because every situation in wholesale is different. And as long as you can commit to reaching out to suppliers in volume, I think that you should feel comfortable taking the leap, and don't worry about it. Because if you actually stick with the process, your income from RA and OA is going to be made up with the wholesale accounts you close in the future.
Yeah, and then some.
Yeah.
Yeah. And wholesale is very much so front end loaded in that, like, once everything's built out, I mean, you can just let it ride. Like if you theoretically didn't want to grow, you just want to keep milking what you have. It's very doable, if you systemize the business and, don't go crazy with it.
Yeah. Feeling anything right now or no?
Just kind of perusing through here. I mean, there's a couple things that caught my eye, but nothing is screaming at me right now. I don't know if you're seeing anything yourself. And this is kind of a very dynamic process in that it's like, it's not black and white. Like we're having this conversation today. you get feelings for different things, right? Like it's kind of just collectively making an assessment of a product and knowing when to like, be more aggressive and pursue the brand and knowing kind of when, hey, this is maybe not worth it.
Yeah. What's I thought I saw.
Trying to look for a sub 5 brand score, but maybe I'm being a little particular with everything.
Yeah.
What about Cream Shop? Let's see what they're about. Yeah, they're actually a big brand, I think. Yeah, we'll get rid of that.
Yeah, they are. What's that one right there? That Blind Barber.
It's nice branding. Well, it looks like they have a pretty well optimized listing. They got some nice imagery here. That's an interesting photo. That's just literally showing the pomade by itself. I get it though. They have they have an influx of sellers, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's something that there's like a certain point at which a lot of sellers becomes a positive. I feel like we haven't really talked about that much. Like there's a certain point and it's you kind of just have to make that determination yourself, but you can see at a certain point you're like, I don't want to sell on this listing, there's too many sellers. But when you see like you got 5 sellers and then the next week you got 25, that's like showcasing that something is wrong, and that's usually could be a way to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, so like this is probably, I mean, even with the seller increase, the price has remained relatively stable. But if they keep going in this direction of an increase in sellers, that price is going to start going down, and they clearly have some sort of retail price control. They probably want to keep their product selling around $20. Their listings are very well optimized too. They got real premium A+ content. This is all good stuff, but something's going on here because a brand like this, I would suspect to just be selling themselves, or maybe have 1 or 2 sellers like in the beauty industry selling.
It like doesn't add up.
Yeah. So I would probably reach out to them on the basis of this.
And you could see actually, if you
angle.
look back in July as well, that is also happening then too, right? So, and then it dips. So, kind of makes me think that there's an arbitrage situation going on, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe they don't have the proper distribution control to control who's selling their product on Amazon. So this would be an absolute, I would definitely reach out to them, but my only real value add to them is to, showcase why this is bad, having a multitude of resellers, how this is going to negatively impact their price and erode the brand, hurt the brick and mortars, other channels of distribution, that kind of thing. Because I really can't provide a whole lot of value to them from a listing standpoint. I mean, they're doing a pretty good job here,
Yeah, that's more of a call where you're calling to inquire. You're calling to ask questions.
Yeah.
John on Twitter says, after a brand says yes to working with you, what are some common challenges someone new to wholesale brand direct would face? You answer.
You just let me jump back here.
Yeah.
Pop that up. After brand says yes to working with you, what are some common challenges someone new to brand? Yeah, so I mean, if a brand says yes to working with you, the first thing you want to do is you don't want to overcomplicate it. At first, I would just get the price list, get your foot in the door with the brand, get that price list, and see if you can make a profitable purchase. If you can purchase those items profitably, then I would do that. But if you get that price list and you compare it and run it through your calculator on Amazon and there's no margin, then you could kind of take one of two approaches. One is to try to negotiate a price concession by putting the value up front and not asking. So you do that like by trying to or by conveying that you're going to purchase in quantity. So it's like, how much volume, I here's where I am. I need to be here. How much volume, do we need to purchase to get here, kind of thing. And then the other way, which is the way that we like to approach it as, especially with brands, is, well, how do we, I don't want to be asking you for price concessions on the first order. And I don't want to start, eroding your profit margin as a brand on the first order. So how can we potentially increase the retail price on Amazon so that we can all make money? But again, it's all kind of assessing where that situation is. You don't want to push those things on the brand too early. So I would say when you first start out, just kind of take it one step at a time, start building a relationship with the brand, and over time, maybe introduce like some of those ideas down the ride.
Yeah, I'm gonna add to it a little bit and say that if they say yes, you want to make sure that they said yes because you're following through on the, like, you don't want to have them say yes because you said things and then not follow through on them. So your yes should be legitimate, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why don't you and I have a picture like that, like their profile picture?
I don't know. Tim, it seems like most of the tips could work for either model, but I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Which model?
Yeah, Tim, I don't know what tips were you referring to. I mean,
oh no, he's talking about the distributor. Sorry. Yeah, brand direct versus distributor.
oh yeah.
Yeah, so brand direct versus distributor, two different approaches. They're similar, but they are, they have their own nuances. Like the main thing being is that with a brand, brands don't always care about money. They care about their brand integrity. They care about how their brand is represented. They care about their pricing. They care about all those things that are important and are sustainable for building a brand long term. Whereas distributors, they just, a lot of working with distributors, the value that you're giving the distributors, big orders, right? So distributors are more volume driven, whereas brands, you might be able to cut them a big check, but they might not take it because they want to control what's going on with their brand on Amazon. So pricing is very important, and protecting the pricing is and making sure it's not, fluctuating up and down is very important to brands, because pricing speaks to the integrity of the product. It protects the margin of other channels of distribution, like brick and mortars, distributors, things like that.
And there's crossover too. You'll get brands from reaching out to distributors, and you'll get distributors from reaching out to brands.
Yeah. And believe it or not, when you dig into the outreach, like brand direct seems like this, it's kind of made out, I feel like, to be this big scary thing. And everybody thinks you need to start with distributors, and then, you can only start doing brand direct after you qualify. And I mean, we were doing brand direct from when we started doing wholesale,
Beginning. Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
it's really just about putting the reps in, sourcing the right brands, which is some of the stuff we're going over here on the lives. Like, it's really just about putting the reps in, whether you're, and nobody's saying don't reach out, like don't try to find distributors. Like if that brand says no, or they don't work directly with, they're not willing to work directly, you know, there's nothing wrong with asking about a distributor, provided they're authorized. You know, but it's all in the volume of outreach.
Depends on the size of the distributor too, because like we know people that work with pretty big distributors, and it's almost more of an arbitraging game where they're like timing things, and you know that can be a little bit more difficult to do. Versus if you're working again with like a small to mid-sized distributor, a little bit of a different game. They're usually more controlled in terms of their supply chain. You know, once you have like distributor to redistributor to this to that, like it gets messy, and that with that mess comes price tanking, and yeah, there's a lot going on there. So, but
Yeah.
just dive in like that. Like if you're going wholesale from arbitrage, like the biggest thing for you, Tim, because like we see you in here like almost every week, right? Is like you're obviously dedicated to this and you want to do it. Just start putting in the action. Like start taking actionable steps, you know, and then you'll figure it out along the way.
Yeah. Start with 10 calls a day, you know, just keep it basic, 10 calls a day, and then increment that volume up over time.
Mm-hmm.
That distributor promo model you were talking about, like we experimented with that a little bit this year, but like 90% of our business is brand direct. So it's like, it's funny because I'm looking at, you know, I'm working with a rep at a distributor, and it's one of those situations where it's like when something goes on sale, you got to buy it during that window. And I'm like,
it's arbitrage.
It scares me. You know, I'm like, well, there's so many factors that can go wrong with this. And if I didn't have this other 90% that was it's not like, I just don't see it as sustainable. I mean, you got to have many, many, many products. But again, like, I don't know. I'm just kind of like, I'm looking for, you know, just sustainability, consistency. Don't have to worry about account health issues. That's what I want to see, you know?
Yeah. It just, you know, it's something that a lot of people do, and they do it successfully, right? But just from our experience, has not been the most optimal, most attractive model. Because again, like you get out of arbitrage to stop chasing things.
Yeah, and
I think that's where,
yeah, I think that's where, like, I feel like I don't know, maybe we have different definition of wholesale than other people, but I feel like that's where things fall short sometimes, in that a lot of people get into wholesale just to get product in bulk, but it's like our definition of wholesale is brand exclusivity, is consistency, is like set it and forget it, is not having to chase sales and, you know, piece things together. It's like, all right, great. We did 6 months of work to close this brand exclusive. It's done, right? I mean, it's not like, you know, you got to follow through on what you promised, of course, but 90% of the work is done.
Yeah, I mean, we've quite literally offered suppliers higher prices for their products before. You know, we've done that, you know, so it's not always about the price concession or buying at the right time. It's just about all the other outside factors.
Yeah. John's asking, in wholesale, does it just get to a point where you are working with a handful of exclusive brands to manage and grow them on Amazon?
Well, I think it depends on how you want to handle your business. You know, you could do that. I mean, it's an option. Like, or if you just keep your foot on the gas all the time, it just never ends.
Yeah, and you don't need all exclusives. Like, our business is certainly not all exclusives. You know, there's a select few accounts that are exclusive that, you know, it's the whole 80-20 principles. Like 80% of your revenue is made up in 20% of your SKUs, kind of thing. So,
Yeah, what I mean, and that's, again, we see that as a fairly consistent thing among really new sellers, is that they come in swinging for the fences. And it's just like, we're always like, add a product to your inventory, get a profitable product, add it to your inventory, and do it again, do it again, and do it again. And eventually you'll wind up with an exclusive, because that's how it works. But going in trying to pitch all this stuff that they don't understand, it's just like, it doesn't make sense. Just getting profitable products.
right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I think there's a pretty solid takeaway of actually that brand that we looked at, because like normally we're on these lives and we're finding these home run, everything checks out brands. There is something to be said about the brands that are not perfect, like in our eyes, from a reach out standpoint, because not all of the factors need to be like, not all the stars need to align for us to reach out. It can be one thing that sticks out to us that is like, this is the reason I'm going to call them. You know, we have closed accounts with brands where Amazon is plastered on the listing, where the price is completely unprofitable at first. Like, they're with, very numerous amount of factors where it's completely optimized. Every single part of that listing is optimized. But there's one factor that stuck out that made us contact them, and that's why the account was closed.
Yeah, exactly. It's not black and white. It's like there's so many factors that you could be looking at to tell you, what is and what is not a good brand. At the end of the day, like, I would rather see a beginner just reach out to 100, like a brand new beginner, right? I would rather see a brand new beginner like reach out to 100 brands, and 50% of them are like, yeah, great sourcing lead. And the other 50% are, these are okay. Just for the purpose of like doing the numbers increases your chances of success, versus over analyzing in the sourcing stage, trying to find the perfect brand, and then only ended up contacting by the end of the week 20 brands.
Yeah.
I think a beginner's has got to make up for that in volume.
Yeah, it establishes a baseline when you reach out to enough people, because you start to understand what's normal and what's not, what sticks out to you and what doesn't, and then you're able to get a gauge on things. Like if you played baseball for the first time and you'd never seen how the game was played any other way, you wouldn't know who was good and who was bad. You would have no idea how it works, right? Or just like anything else. So if you only do this once or twice, you're not going to understand and have that emotional intelligence developed to determine which brands you should push and which brands you should lay back.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to hit this one question on Instagram. How can you tell if a brand is not registered on Amazon? So usually it doesn't mean they're not registered. You can more so tell if a brand is registered on Amazon if they have A+ content and if they have a brand store. That will tell you if a brand is registered on Amazon. But I suppose a brand could be registered on Amazon and didn't build those things out yet. But those would be signs that a
Yeah.
brand is registered on Amazon, because you can't have those things without brand registry.
Yeah. And you could inquire with the brand on that. I mean, you can also go to the brand registry website, if you have the trademark, and try to apply. And if it says you're already registered, then, but I said, if you have all that, you probably working with the brand already. So I'd have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
A lot of brands don't understand brand registry, though. Like, explaining to them that it is a way of Amazon recognizing their brand as legitimate is huge, because a lot of brands don't get what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Tim says, I also just had a light bulb moment hearing the idea of the pitch coming later on in the relationship with the brand and not having to do the pitch up front. It's so much less intimidating.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Yeah, that's important, Tim.
Every call starts the same, you know. Every call starts the same. There's no. Every call is dictated by how the brand owner or the decision maker on the other end of the phone talks to you. Like we don't, you know, think of it as a dance. Like we're not leading. They're leading all the time.
Yep. Yeah, beginners overcomplicate it, but that's the thing, Tim. Just every call, it's we're interested in opening a wholesale account, right? That's it, and then we kind of unpack things from there, and um, tell them more about the business, and you got to make sure you're speaking with the right person, and then we kind of gauge the conversation from there, you know. But that's a big thing, is not overcomplicating it from the beginning. This is an interesting model because we're selling ourselves to buy their product. So a lot of times brands will let you buy their product right away, and we never even have to sell ourselves in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This was a interesting live tonight. I feel like we got kind of deep on some stuff that we normally don't really talk on, as far as just like a little more granular, but like maybe when it's not the opportune or perfect time to contact a brand, but still doing it anyway, you know, because of one factor or another. I think that's important.
Yeah, I know. And I think, the biggest takeaways from this is just one, do the volume. So put in the reps, and, don't try to find the perfect brand when you're sourcing, right? You're going to look at the brand 5 times before you end up buying it, like multiple times, right? Like, stop looking for the perfect brand and just start doing the outreach. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't sell yourself too early. Just take the simple approach where it's just, opening a wholesale account. And then if you're met with resistance, then ask them why. That question right there, that calibrated question of why, do you mind if I ask the reason for that? Or, why you're not taking e-commerce, why you're not taking Amazon? That question right there can lead you down a path in many, many directions.
And most people won't ask that.
Yeah, most people never even get to that question, because they're overselling in the beginning, or they're, approaching it from a transactional standpoint, or they're, it's, you just ask why. That's all.
Yeah.
Keeps the conversation going, asking questions. So we are live, every Wednesday.
Talking about.
What'd
you say? No, I didn't hear you on that one.
No, I just said we go live every Wednesday, 7:00. Tune in. We find brands like every call. And maybe this wasn't the perfect brand this time that we found, but that's fine, because that's what the process is about, right? You're not going to find the perfect brand. So,
yep.
We
will see you guys next Wednesday then. If you are debating on, or if you've heard of and are thinking about it, going to Miami Seller Conference, I recommend going for sure. We do have an affiliate code too. It's just Operation AMZ, to save you some money on it. But regardless of whether you use that or not, I absolutely think you should go to the event. It really is. If you've never been to something like that, you'll come back very fired up. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
See you next Wednesday.